The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you. My thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rolla, clinical psychologist, and today I'm continuing the Marriage in Crisis Bootcamp series that I started a few weeks ago. And I'm going to be talking to you today about destructive criticism versus constructive criticism. Before I continue with this topic, please subscribe, press that notification bell so that you have access to my videos when I release them. I'm sorry to have been away from releasing videos in the last few weeks. I needed some alone time to reorganize my mind, reorganize some projects I'm working on, and get some help, positive help, towards where I'm wanting to be for the rest of the year. I also spent a lot of time working out, resting. I did not post my workout videos. It was really just me focusing on myself. And I just went for a doctor's appointment today just to do a regular checkup. And my doctor says I'm doing fantastic. Weight is fantastic. Sleep is fantastic. This is not even what the doctor is saying. Everything is fine. I feel really refreshed. And I'm going to encourage you that if you need rest, take it. You can come back stronger. You come back more creative. You come back more positive. And that was has happened in this last 2 weeks. Also, I spent quite a bit of time praying, reading the scriptures, energizing myself from within, encouraging myself from within. I want you to please do that. The most powerful lesson I can teach you through this channel is not what I say, but is how I live. And I hope that you will see that as you get to know me and we get to know each other even more. Now, I wanted to talk about criticism today because criticism is one factor that can eat at the core of your marriage. Criticism is one factor that can be lethal for your relationship. I've worked with many individuals and couples who will say to me, I'm a straightforward person. I can't keep my feelings to myself. I just have to say it how it is. It is important for you to understand that having powerful and strong feelings and convictions about something is totally okay. It's actually a healthy thing. The question is, how are you communicating those powerful convictions and feelings that you have? Are you communicating your dissatisfaction, your frustration about whatever you want your spouse to address in a way that is constructive or in a way that is destructive? When I looked up the word criticism, one of the ways it was described is it is seen as when somebody is hurling projectors at something. Looking at the word called brickbat, throwing projectiles at something. Are you throwing projectiles, blocks, stones at your spouse through your words? Because if you are, even though you may be right in your assessment of the problem, you will eventually wear that person down and you'll be eaten at the very core of your marriage. And that is why I wanted to do this comparison today, because oftentimes we share a concept that includes myself and we do not give good or clear examples as to how the person can do different. And then it becomes a little bit confusing sometimes as to how to apply that concept. So I'm going to talk about destructive criticism versus constructive criticism. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but I want you to look at the factors I'm going to talk about in this comparison and see how those factors play out when you are talking to your husband, when you're talking to your wife. Now let's start. The very first sign that your criticism, the pattern in which you give criticism is destructive is what? Is when you attack the person's personality. You're frustrated about a certain behavior, but you focus on the person's personality. And in constructive criticism, the person is focusing more on the behavior that needs to be changed. The person who is destructive in the way they give criticism puts down the personality of their partner and attacks it. And the person who is constructive addresses the behavior and shows respect for the person in their person, in how they see that person. The person who is levying destructive criticism is more likely to focus on multiple issues when they're criticizing, which increases the intensity of the emotion that comes with the criticism. Oh, you didn't do that, you didn't do the dishes, then you don't take care of the kids, then you get late to work. Multiple issues are more likely to be addressed or not addressed, more likely to be communicated by the person who tends to be destructive in their criticism, which means that they're not prioritizing what they're concerned about. Whereas the person who is constructive is trying to prioritize on what is the most critical issue at hand. And while they may talk about more than one issue, it's not likely to be too many, and the focus is behavior, so they don't need to talk about everything that the person has done wrong. If you're somebody that is wondering, am I levying criticism in a healthy way towards my partner? Look at this pattern of saying so many things so quickly in quick succession and therefore attacking the person. And if it's constructive, talking about one or two things with a sense of priority, which is saying that while there may be other things I would like you to change, this is more of a priority. The person who is destructive in their pattern of giving criticism is more likely to pay less attention to the timing of the criticism, which means I don't care whether you're tired, I don't care whether you're overwhelmed, I don't care whether you're at work, I don't care whether you're with your friends. I feel strongly about this and I'm going to say it. That is a person who is showing a destructive pattern in criticism. And the other person who is constructive is more likely to be considerate about the timing. They soften the way they bring up the issue. They want to be tactful. The person who is destructive just wants to throw it out there. That's the way they feel, and I have to say it now. And it creates a false sense of urgency about it. Because oftentimes the person who is destructive in their criticism pattern is not really saying things at this moment that cannot wait. But they feel like they need to let it out. So one disregards the timing, the destructive, and one tries to pay attention to the timing. The person who is destructive in their pattern, in the pattern in which they give criticism to their spouse, tends to be more focused on the what. So there's a hammering about the issue, which is fine. Because if you're frustrated about something, it makes sense that you're focused on the what, which is what I am mad about, what the person has done that is negative. And we have to understand that a person who is destructive in criticism may actually be somebody that is justified in how they feel at the moment, but they're more concerned about what needs to be said. The person that is constructive is focused on the what, they're focused on the why, and they're focused on the how. The person that is constructive understands that the way they deliver the criticism makes a lot of difference. And they've also taken some time to ask themselves, why am I even levying this criticism towards my spouse? One is the what, the how, and the why, and the other is the what. The person who is doing the constructive thinking is doing constructive criticism is doing a much more deeper level of processing. And the person that is doing the destructive is much more focused on, has a much more myopic perception about the problem. What is going on, not how and not why. The person who is destructive in their criticism pattern may highlight relatively minor issues on a more regular basis. They've gotten into a habit of constantly being critical towards their spouse, and anything and everything that happens, they feel like they have to have a commentary on it. And the person who is constructive may talk more about issues that threaten the core of the relationship, which means they're saying things like, in the big scheme of things, does this really matter? I can ignore this. The person who is constructive is trying to ignore things that may not be as important and focus on things that are important. The person who is destructive does a lot of minor issues, focuses on it, and also major issues. So there's no prioritizing there for the person who is destructive. Now, the person who is destructive in their pattern tends to have an air of superiority, feeling like they're better than their spouse is lucky to have them, and even when they're done with the criticism or whatever they need to say, there's this sense like, I got it out now. It's as if they are somewhat in denial of what their flaws are and what their partner may have legitimate concerns about. And the person who is constructive sees their flaws as well as the flaws of their spouse. So there's a mindset thing here that helps the person that drives the way the person communicates. If you step away from a criticism or levying criticism against your spouse and you constantly feel like you're better, check it out. You're more likely to be destructive in your pattern of giving criticism. The person who is destructive in the way they give criticism is a kind of person that can focus a lot on things that their spouse cannot change, such as family history, educational level, or anything that is in their life that is a constant. Maybe the color of their hair, maybe who their mother is, who their father is. Because a person who is destructive can go to a low place of attacking the person, and they may be focused a lot on things that the spouse cannot change. They have no control over it. While the person who is constructive tends to be focused on issues that can be addressed and can be worked through. The person who is destructive focuses more on the problem and less on talking about what they need their spouse to change. And even if they say what their spouse needs to change, they don't say it in a way that is as positive. And the person who is constructive focuses, of course, on what they want to say, but also they clearly state as much as possible what they would like to see change. The person who is destructive in their criticism tends to be the kind of person that minimizes the changes that their spouse has made in that area. Maybe they want their spouse to, put down the toilet seat. Sorry, I'm saying that. Or close the cupboard door. Maybe the person has been making changes in that area. They're more likely to disregard those approximations towards the desired behavior. They're looking for that 100%. I told you I don't want to see this ever happen again, then it must never happen. Obviously, we don't want close approximation when it comes to something like adultery. But we're talking about somebody that is destructive, tends to overlook the positive changes that their spouse is making in that area. And the person who is constructive acknowledges progress. They acknowledge the progress that has been made when they are giving criticism. The person who is destructive does not want to really make themselves available to support their spouse towards the change that they want to see. They may say something like, I've given you my criticism. That's your problem. You better deal with it. You're on your own kind of deal. Not so much just in their words, but also in their action. And the person who is constructive tries to send the message that we're in this together. We can be collaborative. I want to support your change and I want to be there with you through the journey. They understand and they appreciate that the process of change could take a while and they want to be there. The person destructive in the giving criticism doesn't really care that much about them being part of that change. They just want it to happen. It's like they're snapping their fingers. Again, like I said, it's okay to give criticism. In order to have mature love and to work through crisis, we must be cognitively wise in terms of how we process the problems. But how we give criticism can either grow us, heal us, help us to better solve problems, or it can cause your marriage to be on a downward spiral, and you don't want that. If you like this video, please share it, subscribe, press that notification bell, and I look forward to talking to you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.